started our week this. Deion Sanders named the head coach at Colorado. That just happened Sunday. So understandably, Colorado fans and alum are still buzzing, and they never stop. So we invited one of those buzzing buffs to tell us all about it. Let's welcome in a very special guest to the show. It's two-time Olympic skier and former NFL wide receiver Jeremy Bloom. Jeremy, welcome.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, you are clearly a man of many talents, reaching the highest levels of two different sports, and what you're doing now is a CEO of a software company. But somehow, among that busy schedule, you've also found time to help your alma mater in a massive way. I hear Buffs fans should be thanking you. What's the story behind how you helped get Deion to Colorado?
Oh, I don't know about that, but Rick George, the athletic director, deserves all the credit in getting Deion to Boulder. But I played a supporting role on October 2nd when the coach was let go here in Boulder. I called Rick and I said, we got to go get Deion Sanders. And I felt strongly about that at the time because for really two reasons. One, I thought he was the only coach in the country that could really energize this fan base overnight. But secondarily, and more importantly, he was the only coach in the country that I thought could bring 5-star recruits and 4-star recruits to Boulder, Colorado, which has been a really hard thing to do for coaches. If you look at our history over the past 100 years, CU's only had 3 5-star high school recruits commit and come to the program. And Rick was receptive, and after I hung up the phone, I called a few of my NFL friends that I knew had really good relationships with Deion to help them sell the idea in the beginning. So Steve Smith was a guy who was really instrumental as well, and Brandon Marshall and Sean Merriman and Myron Roll. So, look, I would do anything for my alma mater. I just want to see us win again. I want us to see us be relevant again. It's been a tough 2 decades, really. I mean, we haven't been competitive on a national scene in quite some time.
Yeah, Jeremy, Colorado's a program that has experienced success in the past, but this current version hasn't been the best, coming off the worst season in school history. So although it was probably easy to sell Colorado fans on Deion, how difficult and how did you sell Colorado to Deion?
Well, really what sold Deion to Colorado was Rick George. In their first conversation, Deion didn't ask him a single question about the University of Colorado, about the football program, just wanted to get to know Rick a little bit better. And Rick was really able to build a great bond and great relationship with Deion that Deion talked about at the press conference. But beyond that, Boulder, Colorado is a really special place. And, if you look at the best places to live every year of all these studies that come out, Boulder, Colorado is consistently in the top 5. It's a special town. You got great facilities here. You got an indoor practice facility. You got great locker rooms. It's in the Pac-12. It's a Power 5 school. And so everything's set up for you to win. It's just a matter of getting the right coaches and the right kids here to go compete for a championship.
Sounds like a pretty easy sell. Meanwhile, the Pac-12, with its uncertain future, can only benefit from having Deion as a part of it. Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff said literally yesterday that Deion adds value to the current media rights negotiations. How do you view his impact on the conference as a whole?
Well, I think it's good for the conference. I think it's good for the state of Colorado. I think it's good, obviously, for the university, but I think it's good for college football in general. He is an entertaining guy, so bring your popcorn because this is going to be interesting. It's going to be entertaining. And no matter what happens, you kind of can't lose, right? It's a 1-in-11 program. So maybe it was a risk or maybe it was not, depending on how you look at it. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. CU's back on the national map already. 5-star recruits are already committing to the University of Colorado. Travis Hunter, which was the #1 recruit in the nation last year, Deion convinced him to go to Jackson State over LSU and Georgia and Clemson. It just shows the power that Deion has. Winston Watkins, which is another 5-star recruit out of Fort Myers, Florida, sophomore in high school, has already committed to the University of Colorado. A junior college All-American is transferring here. And Trey Sanders, apparently a running back from Alabama, is interested in coming here as well. So, the tide's already turning. The signs are already showing up that his impact is far and wide. And to your point around attention, you can't even buy a box at Folsom Field next year. They're all sold out. They sold out within 24 hours of him coming here. I'm on a waiting list, and a lot of people are as well. So there's a lot of attention, there's a lot of excitement, and Buff fans are showing up, buying tickets, and and donating to the program so we can make sure to get Deion paid.
Well, Jeremy, if you ever get at the top of that list, make sure I'll send you a message, see if I can make my way into a suite as well. You know, the interesting thing that you mentioned about the recruiting impact, right? He's bringing eyeballs, he's bringing attention to the program, and he can elevate them to recruit at a top 15, top 10 level just on name alone, right? And I feel like he's going to have a ton of potential to get prospects to come to Boulder, which is a big hurdle that the previous staffs have had. It's a difficult trip. It's a trip maybe a lot of recruits haven't taken before. What do you envision Deion being able to do in terms of his impact in bringing in top talent?
Well, Blair, you know this as well as anybody. This is a game of talent. This is a game of get the most talented players on the field, and you got a great chance to compete for national championships. I mean, it's not a surprise why Alabama and Georgia and Clemson compete for national championships every year, is because they get all the 5 stars. And of course, there's other schools as well, but Colorado's never been in that conversation. We've always had to be competitive with 2 and 3 stars, which in some years we have been. I mean, in 2001, Big 12 champs, 2002, Big 12 North champs, in 1990, of course, national champs. And really did so with not the best recruits in the country. So look, you know, if Deion can bring some of that magic here to Boulder, which he's already doing, he does have a long way to go still. I mean, this is a lot of folks are leaving Colorado. A lot of commitments have decommitted. We expected that. So he's got to fill that bucket. He's got a long way to go to build this program, build the roster, and build the coaching staff. But it's only been a week, so we're still relatively new into all of this.
I mean, along those lines, there's clearly a lot of excitement. You talk about the impact in recruiting. There's also the transfer portal, which is a major part of the sport nowadays. So how quickly can we expect to reap those benefits from the Deion rebuild?
You know, Emily, it's never been easier to turn around a program overnight because of the transfer portal. I mean, you know, kids can go wherever they want. They have the power now. There's a level of equity in college football and college athletics that's never existed before. And so it's just a matter of, you know, the talent that he can get here. And I understand the portal to be lighting up for CU.
I'm not hard to find.
I think there's a record amount of players, really good players across the country, not just high school players, but players at other Power 5 schools who now want to come play for Deion Sanders. And why wouldn't you? I mean, this guy is a legend. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champ. He's one of the best dual sport athletes in history. He turned around Jackson State. He brought 5-star recruits to Jackson State, which is absolutely unheard of, unprecedented what he did. And in fact, in my own life, he's one of my biggest heroes. And one of the reasons I wanted to be a 2-sport athlete in football and skiing, because I was watching what Deion Sanders was doing on the football field and on the baseball field. So he's a legend. It's really exciting for this town. This town is on fire. I live in Boulder, Colorado. I've never seen the buzz this high for CU football, and you got to dig it.
And Jeremy, I don't want to be a downer, but with all this buzz and the trajectory that Deion Sanders is on, you maybe wonder how long he might be at Colorado. What if he's only there for 2 or 3 years and this is maybe only a stepping stone job towards the next place? What do you think happens to the Buffaloes?
I think everybody knows this is not for long, one way or another. I mean, this is either going to be a huge grand slam or a massive strikeout, and I think it's going to be a huge grand slam. And look, when that happens, you know, coaches get elevated, and you know, I hope he's here as long as he can be, and I hope he wins as much as people think he's going to win. But ultimately, you know, there's bigger jobs in the country. There's higher paying jobs in the country across the Big Ten and the SEC. So I've just been telling everybody, enjoy it while it lasts, because it's not going to be here forever, and just try to soak up every moment of this and enjoy the ride.
That's right. Live in the moment here. All right, switching gears a little bit. I hope some current or maybe future college athletes are watching this, because when it comes to NIL, this man walked so you all could run. Jeremy, please explain how nearly 20 years ago you sued the NCAA and got the ball rolling on the conversation surrounding NIL.
Well, before I went to college, I was the #1 ranked skier in the world and an Olympian as a senior in high school. And, you know, if you're an Olympic athlete, you survive on endorsement money. I mean, that's how you pay for your season. That's how you travel the world and fund your coaches. And when I got to the University of Colorado, the NCAA said, well, you can't have a ski endorsement or a goggle endorsement or a helmet endorsement and play football at the University of Colorado. And I just thought it was so archaic. I'm like, how are you going to govern the sport of skiing? I'm not even coming here to ski, you know? So ultimately they forced me to give up all my endorsements as an Olympic skier so that I could play amateur football. And that kind of kicked off this battle for student athlete rights that I've been a part of for the better course of 2 decades. And it was just incredibly gratifying to see the tide finally turn and to have student athletes have the same rights as their fellow student body, their coaches, the administrators, everybody else at the university. And I think it was an important step forward in the rights of college athletes. And it's fun to see how great they're doing today and capitalizing on this and how much more money is flowing into the system. I mean, the NCAA's biggest argument was like, we can't do this because there's not enough money and it's going to take away from a lot of things. There's never been more money. There's never been more attention on college athletics. And I think that's a really good thing.
Absolutely. And 2 decades later, here it is. Well done. NIL has crashed the party. But when that happens, there will be skeptics. There are some calling it the wild, wild west. So, Jeremy, from your vantage point, though, what is it like watching current players benefit off NIL?
Well, look, every sports league in the world has corporate endorsements. Athletes can make money. You and I can make money. Anyone can make money if you have a special talent and you have a company who wants you to endorse their product. Anyone can do that. The only people left out of that conversation were college athletes for many, many decades because it was hidden under the guise of, quote, amateurism, which nobody really fully understood. But once lawmakers finally understood what amateurism was, it really flew in the face against civil rights. And the legislators in California turned this into a civil rights movement, and that's ultimately how they forced the NCAA's hand. But look, I'm part of the Olympics, and the Olympics modernized themselves in the 90s, and thank goodness they did. Otherwise, we would have never had the dream team, the basketball team, or any of the athletes that are competing today because they would have been amateurism. And so, you know, it's just gratifying, and I think it's good for everybody. It makes it a little bit harder for coaches and schools to keep talent and promise dollars. But that's a problem they have to solve.
Yeah, when you were at the forefront of this, I think it was maybe uncharted territory, right? We didn't really know what this would look like. Now that we do have NIL, do you have any recommendations or any room for improvement when you look at some of the recruiting inducements?
Yeah, look, there's some common sense things that exist at the Olympic level that don't yet exist at the college level that I think make sense. For example, I was part of the NGB of USA Skiing. And USA Skiing and Snowboarding has some corporate endorsements. We were, for a long time, endorsed by United Airlines, for one example. And so we as athletes couldn't go out and sign an endorsement contract with one of their competitors, say Delta Airlines. And if you look at these universities, they all have big corporate endorsements. Some are Nike schools, some are Under Armour schools. And I do think there's common sense logic to say, okay, well, if you play for a Nike school, you can't go, sign autographs for Reebok and those types of things. So I do think that there's some common sense things that make sense. But again, college football, college basketball, they don't have to look too far to see what makes sense because every other league, the soccer leagues, football league, Olympic sports, they've all figured this out decades ago. So it's not rocket science.
Imagine if they had listened to you 2 decades ago, where we would be now. So we got to give it some time. It will figure itself out. Jeremy, thank you so much for the time today.
My pleasure. Go